When I tell people you may have to work for free or do something for lesser, it's like their eyes roll back in their head and they can't imagine doing something like that. But it's a short-sighted, limited view of what it can turn into. I can't get into an opportunity right now, but how do I figure out a creative way to do so? What if I work for less or work for nothing, but it's going to open opportunities on the future doors tomorrow that's going to lead to that, especially when you're breaking through into the luxury market. So how did that pan out after? How did that lead to future business and how did that kind of propel you guys?
I mean, don't be afraid to fail. Like, that was one of the biggest things that we learned. Like, you have to put yourself out there. One of the things that I have heard from, I think Kobe Bryant said it, was things are going to happen the way they're going to happen. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. So don't stress about what is going to happen. If you lose, you lose. And that's that. You can get back up on your feet and go try and win again. So no use not doing anything or worrying about losing, because if you give yourself an opportunity, at least give you a chance to win, right?
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. We have a prominent luxury real estate agent out of Florida, Tampa Bay area. We got Brett Schiller on the show today, guys. He's going to share some bombs on how he became a luxury agent. I think right now he's got like 10 transactions on the market, which is crazy because everybody's struggling right now. As you know, it's a tough market, so he's doing a great job. I want to talk about the mindset of how he went straight to the top pretty much, as everybody wants to be a luxury agent. Very few people ever do. He's doing it right now. He's got multiple multi-million-dollar transactions on the market. I think he's done like 15 million in sales here recently over the past year or so. But I want to talk about how, Brett, you've used social media as well as your journey through personal education has developed the mindset to help you become this leader that's out there conquering the kind of the business world right now in the luxury space. So I'm just curious, man. Thank you for coming on the show, by the way.
Absolutely.
What made you get into real estate in the first place? And then how did you just get into luxury? Because you kind of made that big jump where a lot of people want to and never seem to figure out how to do it, and you just went straight to it and started doing these big transactions. But maybe kind of reverse a little bit and kind of explain how you got into the business. And I know you and your wife are working together, and let's just kind of play it out on the mindset of a luxury agent.
Spot on. Yeah, so my wife and I actually worked together. She was actually the OG in all things real estate. She was the first to be licensed, and I was still working kind of a corporate job. So I have a lot to credit her, fortunately, for where we're at today. But honestly, like my story is a little bit unconventional. I definitely did not see myself as an entrepreneur, number one, or owning my own business, a real estate agent. Like, it kind of hit me as I went through my career, because I started out in the corporate world, worked in the tech industry, and that's where I planned my whole life. Like, I expected to be working there forever, work my way up the ladder, and found out real quick that it sucked. So it wasn't for me.
Really?
And we, as a lot of people tend to find out. So we ended up moving to Florida because we had a growing family. We've got 3 kids right now, ages 6, 4, and 1, and needed to be closer to family. So we came here to Florida. I was working at a small job and pretty quickly realized, was helping run a small business rather, quickly realized it wasn't for me. And so my wife got her license, and then shortly after I ended up getting my license, and we jumped in. And we closed, I think it was our second deal, we closed a $2 million home. And it was, so we kind of started right off in the luxury space, and huge blessings. And it was a little bit of a different scenario. And we ended up where the seller of this home, he was a previous real estate agent. He had planned on selling the home himself. And so it was my wife had a good relationship with these people. And so that was kind of our in, and we knew he was gonna sell it himself. So we just approached him and we're like, hey, like, we just started out in the business. You know, we're trying to find our own space, make our own name. Like, could we sell your house? And the answer was no. So they were planning to do like a for sale by owner. So basically what happened is like, hey, we've got an opportunity to kind of take a chance here. We really didn't know much about real estate. or rules and regulations, but it was like, well, hey, we could list this out. It's like, well, what if we didn't take a commission on our side and you just let us put our name on it? We market it for you. We get to put it on the MLS. Like, win for you. They were still going to pay a buyer's commission anyway. So we ended up taking, basically almost made nothing on the deal, but it was an opportunity for us to market ourselves. And so we leveraged that into a situation where we've really made a name for ourselves in the luxury space, and specifically in a community. We're kind of taking over now where we're the go-to agents in that community, and it all stemmed from that first deal where we essentially saw it as a business opportunity, right? It was a chance where you maybe have to make some investment and hope that you can leverage that into something in the future.
No, I think that's brilliant. It's actually how I got to where I got to doing the same thing. It was working for free. And I've actually had people ask me before, it's like, how did you get to where you got to, and how did you start making the amount of money you are? I said, I work for free. And what I meant by that was I found mentors
Yeah,
in
right.
my local market, and I didn't have any other way to get in close with them. So I would offer to do things for them, like run their REI clubs. And I would wake up early. I'm here in debt, struggling. I'm still waking up when I had to be, focusing on my business immediate deals. But instead I was thinking long-term still, and I'd work their front desks and check people in. And this is how I basically got into my first relationships that led to a lot of opportunities later, which was I worked for free, which is a very similar mindset of what you did, which is I can't get into an opportunity right now, but how do I figure out a creative way to do so? What if I work for less or work for nothing, but it's going to open opportunities on the future doors tomorrow that's going to lead to that, and then look at what it's led to. So I think what you did was incredibly smart and also pretty creative and outside the norm of what most people would even think about doing. Because when I tell people you may have to work for free or do something for lesser, it's like their eyes roll back in their head and they can't imagine doing something like that. But it's a short-sighted, limited view of what it can turn into, especially when you're breaking through into the luxury market. So how did that pan out after? How did that lead to future business, and how did that kind of propel you guys? But that's pretty cool. And I think now also, if you guys hear that second deal, you can do a multi-million-dollar transaction. Don't just think you have to start out and go that slow path and work your way
Yeah.
up. And,
Yeah, and not to say we weren't terrified by any means. Like we had very little knowledge about how to like run a real estate deal. So that was definitely terrifying. Luckily, we had some experience. Like we'd interned for a builder before. We kind of knew about real estate, but had never actually talked to a buyer, wrote a contract, stuff like that. So, I mean, don't be afraid to fail. Like that was one of the biggest things that we learned. Like you have to put yourself out there. And like one of the things that I have heard from, I think Kobe Bryant said it, was like, look, things are going to happen the way they're going to happen. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. So don't stress about what is going to happen. If you lose, you lose. And that's that. You can get back up on your feet and go try and win again. So no use not doing anything or worrying about losing, because, if you give yourself an opportunity, at least gives you a chance to win, right?
well, unless you lose, you don't know what you're doing wrong. So it's like everybody, unless you're going to have losses, you're going to have setbacks, because if not, that means you're going to start out day one into something that you have no knowledge or experience in, and you're going to say, I'm just going to make the best, most optimal play for everything I do every single time going forward. It's highly unlikely. It's impossible. It will never happen. So it's the losses that make us stronger. It makes us more resilient mentally, but it's also what gives us a skill sets to avoid risk in the future. So I tell people fail and then fail faster and keep failing as fast as you can, because the faster you fail in the beginning, the faster you get through the mistakes that you need that get you to winning a little bit later down the road. But there's nobody that's got into business that became successful that I know personally behind the scenes that didn't just like really take it on the chin and have kind of a rough road. So all these social media posts you guys see out there, a lot of it's smoke and mirrors. I've never seen anybody get lucky and just come in and just take off and just have a meteoric rise. Like I've never actually seen that. And I know a lot of successful people, and every single one of them, they paid their dues. They took their licks behind the scenes. It was a systematic process over time where it was in and out, trying things that didn't work to find a few that did, and then trying to scale those things that did. And it's just a journey that you guys have to take on. So don't get frustrated if it's not happening quickly. because it can be very frustrating. It makes you want to deviate and start thinking grass is greener. Stay on the path you're going, fight through those failures, learn those skill sets, and then you'll get paid off later for it. But so you've been using a lot of
Yeah.
YouTube though, and so you got a couple multiple seven-figure transactions right now. You got like 10 in the pipeline. How are you using
Yeah.
YouTube and social media? And then we'll probably transition to kind of like your understanding of business coming from the mindset side of it, which I think can help others as well.
Yeah. So and kind of to respond to your previous question as well. So we leveraged that listing, and like we sent mailers out to the community. We ended up getting a referral from that owner, which led to our next deal. We did open houses. We got another deal out of an open house. We continue to send marketing pieces out, like just direct marketing, just to get people to see our faces, know that, hey, like we're attached to this listing. We're the ones that are involved. We try and meet as many of the owners as we can through open houses, and just, I mean, it's a gated community, so it's not really one you can like go knock doors on. But that's we've leveraged, I think almost, we've had seven homes in that one community that we have sold just from that one house that we started off with. And now we're at the point where I think we are the number one agents in that community. We're starting to plan some kind of a takeover realm where we're hitting every single owner every month, like where they really don't see any other agent as an option. We want us to be the first ones that they think about. So it's been incredibly eye-opening to kind of what we've been able to accomplish just from that beginning. And we're at the point now where we're starting to look at like, okay, how do we scale this outside of, a single area, and how do we continue to grow other parts of our business as well? And that's where YouTube comes in, because we were kind of in a mode where like almost all of our business was coming directly from Sphere or referrals or some type of print marketing. And it's like, how do we scale this to a larger level? And that's when I came across YouTube, and when we started our YouTube channel, and it's been the single best decision that I've made in the last year of my life to pour into YouTube. And I would say we're very early on our journey right now in YouTube. But we've got 10 deals in the pipeline right now from clients that have found us on YouTube. And what's great is they tell me exactly what they're looking for. We do a lot of home tours. So basically we go out, we film a new construction model or something like that. Somebody sees that and they say, "Hey Brett, I just saw your video on, this home in this community. I love that home. I've been looking for something like that. We're planning on moving to the area in the next 6 months or a year. Like, can you tell me a little bit more about it?" And then it's a shoo-in. They already like me. They already told me where they want to be. And it's a simple transaction from that point. So our biggest focus and challenge right now is how do we continue to get in front of more people on that platform and provide more value, so that ultimately more people will see us as the resource that they want to have when looking to move to the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, I mean, I really like how you're building your business out, because you hear the term shotgun versus rifle approach. I mean, a shotgun approach would be like here in DFW where I'm at. Like I was doing deals all over DFW. There's like almost 50 cities, top of the market, northwest, southwest, northeast, and all over the place. Versus a rifle approach, which is a targeted micro market, really saturating that small subdivision, or Kings Ranch subdivision, really targeting in on that. So the cool thing is, once you do what you've done, how you started it, and you're kind of the number one go-to in that market, the amount of time, energy, and effort and marketing dollars is like a decreasing curve going down, that you have to stay in front of their awareness or proximity of the attention that you're trying to get. So in the beginning, it's very difficult to catch attention in kind of a cold or unknown market. You have to put a lot of effort in and put all that, do a house for free, and then it leads to that. But once you have that name recognition, you're the go-to realtor in that area. You kind of conquer that little area, and then what he's doing is he's using YouTube to throw out a wider net. getting a couple deals in a few spots, and then he's going to probably try to recreate that process in that first small micro market in those markets that you choose to work in. Maybe not do them there because you may not want to put up camp in that area, but over 3, 5, 7, 10 years, the most successful agents that I see did exactly just this. At the end of their career, they have full referral business, or they're just the go-to realtor in 3, 5, 10 different little micro markets, and that's literally, they almost have no marketing budget at that point, which is pretty cool. But
Yeah, I look at like there are different ways to farm areas. So like I could send out mailers, I could host events, I could do things that would like physically be farming a community. Or I can look at ways to digitally farm that, which in my eyes or my sense, I looked at as like who has the best videos, most helpful content, where if I'm online searching, and we know, I mean, there's all kinds of statistics of what number of people start their search online when they're looking to move to a community. So I don't know which one's actually correct, but I'm sure it's an extremely high percentage of who's actually starting online. So if I'm digitally farming an area and say I have, 5 different videos on a community, and they see, here's a community tour. Oh, here's one that's got him going through the models. Oh, he's talking to some of the sales reps. Instant point where it's like, okay, yeah, like this guy seems like he knows what he's doing. He knows the people there. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't reach out because he's got the relationships. He knows all the knowledge. So it becomes an easy discussion from that point.
yeah, I mean, you hear all the numbers like 90 something percent. It's hard to tell though, because like, let's say someone comes across like your sign in the yard or a postcard, and then they look at that, and then what they do is they go check you out on the internet, and that's when they start watching you. So it's hard to really track that, but you need to have a combination of both, just like you're doing. So y'all need to have traditional marketing skill sets and
Agreed.
modern marketing skill sets, and leverage them across each other, and that's how you're going to be the highest and best. This is the best way you can run your business, put it that way. But so what are some of like the, maybe give an idea of like some of the marketing pieces and stuff you're sending out in like the local area? You're sending postcards to the homeowner. Like, what is that kind of message?
Yeah, super simple. I mean, most of it we create ourselves at Canva. So, and it's usually directly tied to business that we're doing. So if it's a new listing, we will send out a postcard to all the neighbors around that area. And we've done as little as like 100 homes around the area, and we've done as much as about 1,000 homes, just depending on how big the community is. And the luxury community that we farm, it's only about 150 homes, and sometimes we just send directly to that. So new listing, open house, we've sent out open house. Basically, it's just a picture of the house, picture of our faces, says the time of the open house. But the big thing about that is especially in those type of homes, you get a lot of neighbors that they either want to come check out the house for, ideas for what they want to do in their house. Maybe they're building in the area, or they know someone who they want to bring into the community. So we found neighbors to be one of the absolute best sources for bringing buyers.
Oh, for sure.
And so you get to establish a relationship with them as an owner and a seller, have an opportunity to maybe sell the home to one of their friends, or if they're thinking about, we've oftentimes had where a seller will come in and they're actually thinking about selling their house, and they're kind of testing you out to see what you know about the community, what you know about the house. And then at the end of the conversation, they're like, oh yeah, we're thinking about putting our home on the market here in the next few months.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like so I came up in the investment space, so I used to flip a bunch of houses, and it'd shock people if they really knew how many times I sold the house before the house was even finished being renovated, because what would happen is the neighbors are out there. At the beginning, I used to flip houses. I'd be like, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm going to stay in my little cave here and hide. But you're in their neighborhood, really, when you think about it. They're looking in, and almost every time I'd be flipping a house, the neighbors would come over. They'd either want their grandmother or their mother or a family member or a friend, someone to move into the house. And also, many times I finished those houses out with the finished outs that they wanted. So I'd be like, all right, well, I'm halfway through. You can pick the granite, you can pick the floors and all this stuff, and we'll just kind of make it to your take. But that's very important. What we're talking about here is to develop that relationship within that neighborhood. Because if not, and it goes where you're seen as the bad one, you're probably going to get run out of that neighborhood. But
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
for sure.
So, what about the YouTube videos? So you're doing property tour videos, but is there any other type of content that you've seen generate leads? Any specific type aside from the property tour videos, or is that just kind of the main one?
So we've kind of heavily focused on property tours, but just recently I've kind of come to a realization that because like my YouTube channel is not huge at this point. I think we're on the cusp of breaking about 1,000 subscribers, which I mean I look at it like if I was talking to a room of 1,000 people, like that's a good room. So it doesn't have to be, that's one realization I've had. I always thought you had to have like 1 million subscribers if you want to make money from YouTube. That is the furthest thing from the truth. If you can provide enough value and get decent enough content, it doesn't even have to be fantastic. As long as it looks decent enough and people find value from it, you can drive a lot of traffic to whatever business you're running from that channel. So we're starting now to kind of transition some of our content into a little bit higher scale. We're finding a lot of people that they want to move to Florida, for example, but they really don't know where they want to live. They don't know if it's Tampa, they don't know if it's Jacksonville, they don't know if it's Orlando, and let alone like where within Tampa. So we're starting to look at a little bit of a higher approach, starting to do more community tours, focusing on that, and then more content around, why would I choose Tampa over Florida or Jacksonville, or not Florida, but over Jacksonville or Orlando or Miami. So that way there's more search volume on those, and then it drives more traffic to kind of your niche down home tours. So I'm quite excited about where our YouTube channel is heading, and I see a ton of potential with it, and I see really good things happening for our business in the next 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have the right mindset on it. I've been doing YouTube on and off, man, it's a long time now. When I started YouTube, like they had auto-generated thumbnails. You couldn't even use your own thumbnails. But
Yeah.
I've seen this become a big problem working with a lot of agents and just overall entrepreneurs where they're so fixated on the vanity metrics, looking like they're getting a lot of views and subscribers instead of the real metrics, which is how many deals they're getting behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can go out there and dance and do weird stuff and make like you can get a whole bunch of views and subscribers, but is it going to translate to business? And sometimes people are out there dancing around like a monkey on stage and they're growing their channels, but they're not actually generating business. And other times people are doing the right thing that generate business and build credibility and develop that real relationship and that rapport through their videos, and they may not be getting as many views as these over here. I mean, like if you want to grow your channel, you can just do like a skit channel or like, go tripping on yourself or all sorts of stuff in costume, and you'll grow quick, but will that translate to business? So the mindset you need is, if I came across this, would I work with this person? And if not, probably shouldn't be putting that out there. And I see a lot of people get focused on scaling the views and not the business, but I think you're doing it right. And even when I got into YouTube, I remember I told my mom when I hit 100 subscribers, she was like, "You hit 100?" She was like mind blown. And so that's just the mentality from outside the industry.
Little Connor, 100 subscribers?
Yeah, or like, to friends and family, that's a lot. So they're not, so someone's going to come to your channel that's got 100 subscribers and they're going to just say, this person's on camera. They're not thinking like that. We're like, oh man, I'm underperforming. I only got 100 subscribers. You got to think about who's watching the content and their perception looking in. And just because we grew up with the television in front of us, who's on the TV? Credibility, athletes, politicians, movie stars, comedians, all sorts of people. So people seeing you on YouTube, you naturally get that credibility effect and that hierarchy structure effect, which is they must be someone special because they're on camera. So I think
that's
mindset.
One thing that I really didn't anticipate, but like being on camera has helped every aspect of our business, because when I'm in like a listing presentation, or if I'm in front of a room pitching a listing to a group of people or something like that, like I now have like way more confidence in myself. Like I kind of have better ideas of what I'm going to say because I'm saying all those things on camera, which, I mean, that's typically when you freeze up, is when you're looking at a camera. And so if you can get that down, putting a person in front of you and actually having a conversation, it becomes pretty easy. So I've seen that front where conversations with clients have become much more meaningful, much easier, and better all around.
Well, for sure. Like one thing that you'll notice is just a great communication trainer because it helps you guard the face, put it that way. And I don't think even myself realize how easy it is for us to carry our emotions on our face. Like we're having a long day and we go from one client to the next, we can take that emotion to the next one. And when
Hmm.
you're on YouTube, you're watching your videos before you post them, so you can really see, okay, I have to control control my facial mannerisms and my body language, and you can really focus on the tempo and the delivery and a lot of different things. So it's not just that you're putting content on there; you're developing very powerful communication skills, both verbal and nonverbal, and also just being able to adjust off that from previous videos. You just increasingly get better with your communication ability, and your ability to communicate and influence others has a direct relationship to your bottom line. So I think everybody should be doing some type of Toastmasters, YouTube, or something with video, because if people are not used to being on video and talking to strangers when they get to a homeowner's house, they don't come across very well when that homeowner's talking. Do they feel like they may be more competent, but if their delivery doesn't create that conviction that they are confident and can do it, they may not be the one chosen to go do it, even though they may have higher skill sets. But because the way they deliver their message comes across differently, they may get passed up on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the number of times I thought I was happy and cordial, and then I look back at what I looked like on camera, and I was like, "Whoa, I look like a look
Yeah,
grumpy right there."
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
I was thinking even then, like it helps with like, if they say you look tired, you're like, oh, I need to sleep more, and like it's just a good understanding of how you're perceived from others looking in, and really that's more important. It's not what we think about ourselves; it's what others think of ourselves. Because if they don't trust us and want to work with us, then it doesn't matter. So it just gives a good perspective looking in. Let's maybe transition a little bit into like the mindset of getting on YouTube. It is not something that most people are comfortable doing in the first place. So what initially made you start on YouTube? I mean, obviously, was it when you got to the Wolfpack, or were you doing that a little bit before? And then maybe some of your mindset, going into it, you were concerned over this, but some people get really scared over it. How did you kind of push past through that? And then I know you're really working hard on your personal education, which has helped you get to where you're at, and maybe go into some of the books and things that you're reading to develop yourself.
yeah. So I got on YouTube. It's almost exactly a year ago when I really started posting content, and that was like right at the time that I had joined the Wolfpack. So I think I made my first. Well, I had made one YouTube video like a few years ago, and then never did another one. But when I joined, then I came across Mike Sherrard's content, saw everything that was possible through YouTube, and I think I posted one video before I joined the Wolfpack, and then joined the Wolfpack, and now I'm posting 1 to 2 a week. So it's I've really just recently been focusing on a lot of self development stuff because honestly, I feel like the only thing that holds anyone back, including myself, is a belief in what I'm doing and belief that I can be successful at it. Because look, it doesn't matter what type of market is out there. I can pull up the statistics right now and see like, hey, the number of transactions are down 30% year over year. Like, okay, well, that's huge. That means there's a lot of agents that aren't getting business. But go look at the number of closed transactions in the last month. In Tampa, there's like 1,500 deals. Like that's a lot of business that's still going on. And there's a lot of agents that are still doing that. So, and I've kind of had to transition my mindset where it's like, look, it doesn't matter what the outside forces are. Like the business is there. Somebody's getting it. So why not me? And so that's where I've kind of dove into some education and tried to fix my brain, you could say, a little bit. Not that it was bad in the first place, but just try and bring it to a next level. And I think a piece of that was opening my mind to what's actually possible in real estate. Because before this, I was at kind of a small town broker. It was just really myself and the broker. That's like whoever I had a conversation with. I didn't know any other agents. I think there were a couple around, but I never met them. So I only really knew what was around me. And I didn't know what people were doing nationwide, what type of numbers were possible. And that's where when meeting a guy like Mike who exposes these agents and helps you see what's possible. When I saw that Suman Kim was doing his first year, did 67 deals worth, or 87 deals worth 67 million of volume, it was like, okay, I didn't even know that was possible. And that's when it hit me, is like, okay, well, obviously it is possible. So why can't I do something like that? And so that's where I've started to look at, okay, well, maybe it's just myself holding me back, which I think is true. Like I thought that, hey, if I'm closing $7 to $10 million a year, like I'm making a good living, probably more than most people are. But that's, I guess that's just where I was satisfied and what I thought really successful agents were doing. But I've since come to a realization that bigger things are out there.
I mean, it's so cliche because people talk about you got to believe in what you're doing and belief, but they really don't understand it. But like, this is when I really understood belief, is when I really started having success. Because like, if you don't believe it's going to work out, you will not put risk behind it. So our thoughts actually cause how we feel. So for example, like I was fishing the other day, y'all know my hobby's fishing, and I got stuck in a bunch of grass, but it felt like a giant fish, and I thought I had a big one on, and I was reeling it in, and I realized it was grass. But what had happened was the belief that I thought I had a big one already sent that, adrenaline rush to my body. My knees were already shaking, my hands were already shaking. There's no fish on the line. But if I caught a big one, it's the same reaction in my body as if I had one, but it was triggered by the thought. And I give another analogy, like, it's, let's say like a friend or someone calls you and says like a loved one passed away, but they're not actually passed away. But at the time the call comes in, you believe that that's true. You're still going to break down, you start crying, but that means that our thoughts, the belief of the thought causes how we feel, and how we feel causes our attitude, and our attitude causes everything around us. Do people want to work with us, stay with us, grow with us, hire us again? And so a lot of times businesses run off by a bad attitude, and that bad attitude is created by how we feel, and how we feel is created by the incorrect thinking processes that we have. So if you don't believe that this outcome that you guys are going down, I'm going to put all this time and risk and money and effort away from my family and all this type of stuff is going to pan out to the success that you think you're going to have, you will never put the risk behind it, meaning showing up every day and continue on doing it. So you have to believe that you can do it, and then you have to believe in what you're doing, the vehicle that you're doing, insurance, real estate, whatever, is going to get you there. So those two, the belief in oneself and the belief in the vehicle combined, create the forward momentum and the actual ability to take a risk and push past what's holding you back and procrastinating. So you can all do this, but people just don't believe in themselves. And once they get around others, and like Brett's like, well, I see these guys behind the scenes, they're just all just like me. There's nothing special about them. They just came a little bit forward, and they think a little bit differently, and then they just take action over a long period of time. You can see people that did it before you, and it makes you see yourself in their path and their story. And then that's when you can do it. So now once you go do it, you pull the next generation behind you up, and you can do that on your YouTube channel. You can generate business, but you can also help other people follow in your footsteps and become successful as well. But
100%.
What are some of the books you're reading? You gave a couple good ones earlier that you said you liked that I actually haven't read before, but maybe you want to share a couple of those. I know everyone's always looking for the next and new.
Couple that have been really impactful. So Vivid Vision was one that I had read a few months ago. One of the things that I've always struggled with is kind of setting like what I really wanted and understanding what I really wanted. And so Vivid Vision kind of helped me walk through actually like how to set a vision for yourself and what types of pieces to the puzzle need to go into that. And ultimately, like, where do you see yourself in 3 years from now? And so I spent a lot of time kind of, out in nature, thinking about myself, my business. I really kind of took a step back and looked at my business as a whole and said, okay, like, what am I doing? And is this what I really want to be doing? Like, do I want to do luxury? Do I want to do, smaller transactions? Do I want to focus on, specific communities? Do I want to grow out of that? And so I had to get more clarity on really what brought me happiness in my work, because if I can find happiness in what I'm doing and I enjoy doing it every day, then I'm going to be way better than if I'm focusing on something that I really don't love, but even if it is generating me some income. So that was a really good book in kind of helping me visualize that. One that I just read recently was called Thinking Like a Monk, and it's there's an idea in there which I am really fond of, and it's called finding your dharma, which I think is it's like an I don't know some maybe like an Indian term or something like that. But essentially, the concept of dharma is it's where your skills meet what your skills meet like what the world needs. So it's almost like where's your passion lay, where's your skills lay, and what's actually useful to the world. So it's like if I sell real estate, like how is that useful to someone? How do I benefit someone's life through selling real estate? Like if I'm just out there to make money, well, I'm probably not going to be a very good servant and probably not going to do very well because I'm not focusing on how to help an individual. But if I think like, okay, well, there's a lot of people that want to move to this area and they really don't have a lot of knowledge. So how do I help educate those people? And then like, is that something that I'm skillful at? Can I get good on camera so that I can answer their questions? Is it something that I enjoy? If you can align those three, both skill, usefulness, and I keep forgetting them. Your like usefulness to the world, your skill, and something that you actually enjoy, then like you're in that sweet spot where like you're happy, you're generating everything that you need. And that whole concept I think was super inspiring. And that kind of helped me think, okay, well, maybe I want to pivot in a few areas. Maybe I don't want to like focus on this type of business and start focusing more on this, even though, this was a easy money or something like that. And then the last one is The Gap and the Gain, which I just recently read, which The Gap and the Gain really focuses on positive mindset. So the idea behind it is, look, if I see a scenario and I look at it in a negative light, that's living in the gap. And we can never really move forward when we're living in the gap. But if we take a scenario and say I just lost a listing appointment and I can say, oh no, like poor me, that went really bad. Like I'm living in the gap. But if I can look at it and say like, maybe that I wasn't supposed to sell that house. Maybe my time is freed up so that I can go focus on something bigger. That's living in the gain. And so it doesn't matter what happens in our lives because there's going to be things that happen that aren't going to go our way, but no use moping on it, letting it ruin your time or your day, because there's going to be other things that, maybe there's bigger things out there. So who are we to say that because we missed out on something that was actually a negative thing?
Yep. So like, it sounds like the polarity, sorry guys, I've been a little sick. Sounds like the polarity mindset, meaning there's what's called law of polarity, very similar to that, which is there has to be one and the other, up, down, left, right, hot, cold, negative, positive, day and night. Everything has an equal and opposite to it if you look at the electron. So it's the way that we interpret this old adage, glass half empty, glass half full. So early on in my life, and I think this is where most people are, is when something happens, a circumstance or an event, they naturally move towards the negative side of frequency, depending on which or however they're thinking at that moment. But it is really how you determine it. So like I tell people my story where I hit rock bottom, and some of you guys know that. When I look back in hindsight, losing my poker career at the moment literally was so bad that it almost left me to take my life. That's how bad it got. But in hindsight, it was the best moment that ever happened in my life because it led me down a different direction in life. And so I had an 8-year career disappear overnight, but it led me into real estate. And here I am now. So when you have bad things happen to you, don't look at them at the moment. Just look at it as, what can I learn from this, or what can I gain from this? Because there's always a win in every loss and always a loss in every win. It's just what you focus on looking for, and what you look for, you're going to find. And most people don't think that, they don't understand that they're actually looking for the negative to validate, confirmation bias of how they see the world at the time, or how the world's out to get them, or how they're cursed, or how, everything's holding them back and it's just them. But the reality is everybody goes through adversity. So when you guys have problems being put on your shoulders, don't feel it's on you and it's attacking you and the world's after you. Everybody deals with this. It's how do you handle that? And I truly believe, and I don't push my faith on people, but I believe that God watches us, and when we handle things in a way that we don't show that we can handle a small problem, why would we ever be given an opportunity to have a bigger problem later? And so I was very quick, hot-headed, and complain and would get up super upset early on in business because I thought I had all these problems and I was being held back and it was taking too much time and all this. But in reality, those are the gifts that I needed to develop into the person that I can now, that could be the person to be successful later. So as you're going through bad things, look for the good thing and look for the good lesson in it, because there has to be one of something inside your struggle or adversity that you're going through right now, whether it's personal or business. There's a win in there. And if you ask yourself what the win is, your brain will start looking for the win. Just like if you guys are upset, go right now after this video and turn on like a YouTube channel of a bunch of funny skit videos of people, tripping and falling. And I guarantee you within about 30, 60 seconds of watching funny stuff, you're going to shift out of that frequency and you're going to start feeling good. So it's whatever our brain is focusing on is going to make how our body feels. And people don't understand that. And they stay in these negative loops and negative cycles. So all they see is the negative around them. And you wonder why they got 24/7 media throwing fear and negativity down on them. But I don't know if you have any take on
I think
that.
another powerful piece to that is if you've got the right people that you're surrounded by, it can help dramatically, especially when you're in one of those ruts. Like yesterday was a difficult day for me, like just kind of like, I think we had a few things happen that were like on the negative, or I like perceived as negative. And it's like, you kind of have to remind yourself, like, okay, like I'm stuck in a negative rut here. How do I get out of it? And that's where like I had my wife read The Gap and the Gain too. So it was like, look, if I'm like living in the gap, you need to call me out because like if I could stay in this and I could continue to mope, and ultimately it's just going to ruin more things, or I could focus on the positive. And that's where one thing that I typically do is if I'm living in the gap or looking at the negative, then it's like, okay, what's 3 positive things that have happened today or that's going on right now? And just example for yesterday, when I started thinking about it, like I had an agent join me yesterday, like they just came under me. It's like, that's huge. That's a huge win. I had someone call me off of my YouTube channel yesterday. I was like, that's another huge win. I was like, why am I sitting around here moping when like I just got a brand new client and a new agent that's going to be crushing it and I get to help train? Like these are great things. So I think it's all in the way we frame it, and we have total control of our minds and ability to frame things how we want to frame them.
100%. And it's just the conditioning throughout life. Most people don't, and most people are raised by parents or families that didn't come up with that understanding of how to control and have the awareness how to control their thoughts. And so what we feel and see is everybody around us acts this way, and we don't realize how negative everything is until you kind of escape the box and you get into these different environments and you're like, it doesn't feel that way over here. All these people are kind of thinking a little differently, acting a little differently. And that's why you get a lot of that in the group here with what we're doing with the Wolfpack. We're trying to help people understand you don't have to be caught up in that way of thinking over here. There's a different way to do so. And you hear the analogy, the 5 closest friends or whatever, but really it is the feeding of the information through your mind, and then the belief systems through the mind is what makes you see the world differently. And if you're around the right 5 people, they're going to change what you feed through your mind, because those are the conversations that you're having with them on a daily basis. But you mentioned that you were getting outside a little bit. I know that I had a lot of like mindset issues and I was getting pretty depressed. And this is even when you've studied this stuff and you're focusing on all the time, you still go through waves and cycles and doubt and things like that. And one of the things that happened for me was during the pandemic, obviously a bunch of problems happened. I had all sorts of properties and like crazy stuff. And it happened out of nowhere at the wrong time, obviously for a lot of us. And getting outside and getting active and getting back into my hobby, fishing, some people's golfing, some people's boating, camping, whatever it is, really helped me clear my mind and refocus, and having that distraction-free time where I make a lot of my big decisions when I'm out by myself. And you don't have to be a hobby. It could be just running or anything like that. But maybe touch on, getting outside, you mentioned, and how that helped you kind of clear the mind and think about your life and just really focus.
Yeah. So, I mean, two examples. Going back to yesterday, that was one thing that I did was I ended up going for a walk outside, and then I was like, okay, let me focus on positive things, and then kind of everything turned around. But I find, like, especially if I'm like stuck in an office space and I'm in a negative mindset, I really have to kind of throw off my usual, and getting outside helps with that a lot. the other example was when I was doing my vivid vision. Like, I think I can think a whole lot clearer outside in kind of an inspiring space than I can sitting in an office space. I grew up in Utah, and so I used to go hiking all the time. We'd go to the top of the mountains, and I'd always have like these kind of overarching thoughts when I was, at the top of the mountain. I was like, man, isn't this beautiful? Like, look at everything that was created here. Like, look at me worried about, my exam this weekend. Like, that's so insignificant compared to everything that's going on. So, like, putting things into perspective, I often find, like, when I'm sitting in an office space, my perception is skewed when I can get outside and see everything that, I guess, similar, everything that God has created. And like, hey, I'm on a journey, I'm creating myself. Like, don't worry about the small little things that happen. That's okay. Like, I'm on a good path, I'm on a good journey, and there's such bigger things out there. So don't let the little pebbles stumble or make you stumble.
Yeah, you could have been like a weed or an ant or a bird or
Yeah,
something.
that's right.
You gotta God gave you a human consciousness, so it's and also just getting outside, like you get vitamins and energies that you wouldn't normally have, like just like staying inside, even if you have like really good HVAC system and air purifiers, you're not breathing in the air that you need to be in. Just being outside for a little bit, you'll notice you'll feel healthier. Being in the sun, you're going to feel healthier, and when you feel better, you perform better. And it's just like, also like many times, like if you're doing it, like say you're walking up a mountain like that, or even on a treadmill, anytime you're increasing your heart rate, it shifts your brain into a different frequency pattern, and it's going to lead to way more creative thoughts and looking at things differently than you were before. And so there's a lot of benefits, and I just really think a lot of people are unhappy because they sit inside and they're around these. I mean, look at this
Yeah.
room I'm in. It's like a straight cancer box. It's, I got like camera here, I got camera here, I got lights here, desk, cell phone. Like as soon as
Yeah,
I'm done with this, I'm getting out of here. Just kidding. But
that's right.
it is important that people get outside and remember what they are and why they're alive. It's not to sit in a room full of technology everywhere.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. My most clear thinking is always when I'm outside.
Yeah. Anything else you're doing? Are you focusing on anything like breathing exercises, sleeping patterns? Do you have rituals, habits, things like that that you have
Yeah,
noticed
one
help you
one
with?
thing I would say, one book that I read was Miracle Morning, which is really like, I own the morning. If there's anything that I like focus on, it's absolutely my morning time. Because if I can start the day off with kind of checking all the boxes of most important things that I need to do that day, then everything else tends to fall into place. So I have my own routine. I usually wake up around 5:45, and then I come like straight into my office space, and I do like prayer or meditation. Then I do 15 minutes of reading, some type of self-development book or something that's going to educate me. And then I spend some time scribing or writing in a journal to kind of like, focus on positivity, focus on things that are happening in my life. And I find as I write things down, I tend to get more clarity. And sometimes you make mountains out of molehills. So like some things I find out that's really not that big of a deal as I write it down. And then once I finished that, then I'll go exercise. I'll go to the gym for an hour, and I'm usually back at the house by 8:30, and kind of all those things are done, and I'm kind of off to the races.
Yeah, I mean, sounds like a good one to me. That's a good morning routine for anybody to follow right there. I've done similar parts of it, not identically, but a lot of that stuff I do is overlapping. The one thing I don't and haven't done that I've kind of been intrigued with is like journaling. I mean, I've
Hmm.
seen people do this on and off. I just never really did it. So this like you do every night. How long do you probably spend doing it? Because I know like if you're gonna do something, guys, you need to be able to do it consistently and stay with it. So don't just like journal like once and then never do it again. But like, what do you think if someone's thinking about doing that? Maybe I know you gave some good elaborations, but anything else you want to share on that? Because it's something I've thought about doing. And then every time I do, I'm like, I just got so many other things to do. Just like every other time we do in our mind, we talk ourselves out of stuff. So maybe you can talk me into journaling.
You know, so I've kind of started doing. I guess my kids have been a big factor of that because so I've got a 6, 4, and a 1 year old, and so I do more than just like business. But part of it is like I really want to remember specific things that are happening. Like I want to remember when my 1 year old is standing at my door and, looking into my office and waving at me. And so I've tried to start documenting those like with pictures. So I take a lot more pictures and then I put that into my journal as well so that I kind of have picture and actual like words on a page of kind of what's happening in life. And for me, I don't know, I really want memories. And I think it's an opportunity that I'm going to have to like look back at that time in my life and say like, here's what was happening. Here's what I was worried about. Like I can see, like I was super worried I didn't have enough clients or I didn't have enough going on at that point. And then as I look at it back then, I was like, why the heck was I worried about that? Like that was so insignificant. And so it's really helped me take a higher approach and now make better decisions like in my business today because like, I can see what I was worried about. I'm like, I don't have to worry about that today because I can see all the good things that are happening and what I'm building and I can, follow that journey of my life. So for me, it's a lot based on kind of memories that I want to have and stories I want to tell.
I like it, and I think it also creates like a forced awareness. Like I'm a big believer in. I do this at the beginning of my day and end of my day. I'm always thinking about how I'm going to perform throughout the day and transition from meeting to meeting. I'm already thinking like even when we're doing this, my brain is thinking like what I'm doing next. But at the end of the day, I'm doing an audit of how my day went, what went well, what went bad, how can I do better, and things like that. But when you writing something down on pen and paper, this is like when we write goals. You have to be thinking while you're doing it. You cannot write something that you're not thinking. It's impossible. So like you like write cat. You can't write cat without thinking cat. So what it's doing is it's creating a forced awareness. It's making you go back and do that daily audit and reflect. And that reflection is how we improve in the future by saying, how do I do good or how do I do bad? How do I adjust? And most people have no audit on their day, their year, or their life, and they float through life and they kind of just drift through it, and then they never improve because they don't think they have anything to improve from because they're never looking back on what they may or may not be doing right. But while you're looking over your day, it's forcing you to replay it and having that awareness. It's a forced attention center that you're doing. I don't know if you ever thought of it like that, but
And the one thing that I've kind of recently learned is that like success is different for every person. Success is defined by ourselves. And if we're always measuring ourselves against somebody else's ideals or somebody else's successes, we're never going to see ourselves as a success. So we have to have our own measures and define what success means in our lives. And then as we look back, are we making progress on what we've defined? Because if I look at Connor Steinbrook and I'm looking, okay, well, I'm not making as much money as Connor right now. Like I'm not feeling good about myself, but it's like, well, hey, I set a goal of, hey, I want to do this much commission this year. Or I want to have this many agents that partner with me. Like, am I making progress on that? Then that's to be celebrated. I'm being successful in what I want to accomplish. If I need to set bigger goals so that I can be like Connor, then that's on me. I need to set bigger goals. But if we're, and that's one of the pitfalls of social media is we're always seeing what everybody else is doing. And you can easily get caught in that comparison mode where you have to kind of remind yourself, like, look, focus on what I'm focusing on, not what they're focusing on.
Kind of. We always see what they're doing, but really it's what we see what they want us to think what they're doing. And really think about it. Social media is really a projection of the perfect
that's
life
true.
they want you to have. But this is a really important topic because I was miserable and early on in my career before I really understood a lot of this type of stuff, before I went down personal education. And remember we're talking about our thoughts create our feelings and how we feel. And when I got into real estate, part of the way I went into debt was I joined this high ticket coaching company, and there's like 50 to 60 people that probably put up 30 to 50K. And I remember there's one kid, or he's a kid now, we were younger, I'm getting old now, but there was one guy that was doing this, and he basically after like a month, almost everybody dropped out, and there's still one guy, but he's crushing, and he was doing wholesale deals left and right, and he was telling me, showing me his checks like 30K, and it really got to me, where I almost quit the business because I was like, standing side by side, I'm not being rude, but like I feel like I'm equal to, if not probably a little better than this dude. I'm like, how is he outperforming? Because I was working sun up to sundown, literally like 18-hour days, sometimes 24-hour days. And I'm like, how is this happening? How is this guy outperforming me? What is he doing? Well, later I found out he'd been in business full time for 5 years and already had a successful business and went through this coaching just to get extra skill sets. And this is why you should never, ever look at someone else's business or their life or their pictures or anything and put your own assumption of the story of what's happening, because what if they're spending more money than you but actually losing? Let's say someone in your market's doing 50 deals and you're doing 10, but you made a profit and they actually lost money because of the amount of money they're spending in marketing. But you're beating your self-esteem down because you're like, they're doing way more deals, but the goal is net income and you're actually winning. And it happens all the time where people convince themselves of why they're underperforming or why there's something limiting with them. So focus on yourself, guys. Don't look at someone else's business from afar. You have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. I even see this at EXP, like certain people looking at other people growing, and it's like, well, do you know that that person that looks like John Smith is actually 3 different people that partnered together that all work and run together as one? So you're literally competing against one in your mind, but there's 3 that you're actually competing against. So you just got to stay in your lane, stay on your goals, and not look at any noise unless you're looking at your competition on a way to improve your business by saying, what are they doing? They're doing a good job. How can I learn from them or model them? And I think a lot of people need to learn that their competition can be their partners in ways. I actually have a video on one of my channels from like 6 or 7 years ago talking about that, like 7 different ways competition is actually your partner. And it's a real big problem in business, especially now with social media, with all the fake stuff out there and just like whatever anybody wants you to see. So
yeah, if there's really any advice for an entrepreneur, it's like you have to get very, very particular on what you want. Like starting your business, define what you're going after and focus on that, because there's going to be a million different things that are going to pull you every which way. So you got to have something that you need to go back to continually refocus yourself and say, this is what I want. And then if you decide that, you know exactly where to spend your time, and you know exactly what, measures you have to do, what calls you have to make, you can do it. But if it keeps changing, that's how things fail.
So are you using anything? So like, it's easy to have problems in the day, shift your thoughts off and you just go off in a different direction. And what I've always used is awareness words. Like I have buzzwords on my wall and around my property and things like that, or my vision boards or visual goals. Are you doing any of that type of stuff? Do you have vision walls, or you set visual goals or anything like that?
Yeah. So, and from some of the trainings that I've had with you, I've kind of got more clarity on that. So I have in front of me, like I have a goal chart where I have, in terms of like my transactions, who I'm working with, number of transactions I'm doing every quarter, what I'm projecting to do in the following year. And then like my goals of how much money I want to make, what do I have? How number of deals I want closed, like how many number of YouTube leads I want. And then on the agent attraction side, like, am I having any conversations with agents that I've talked to? And then I have on my computer screen, I've had my vision, like, what I want to do for fitness, different properties I want to own, what I want to be doing with my family, like pictures of these things. So I try and build as much visual as possible, because it's very easy to kind of slide off that slippery slope, and you're kind of in this mindset of something, and I think you're right. You have to kind of have a visual cue or a mental cue that sets you back straight and reminds you of really what you want. Otherwise, you get sidetracked.
It's so easy, especially when everything's trying to take your attention. I mean, really, it's not that like, hey, I'm just not very aware, like I'm losing track of my attention, like here and there. Like that's literally the goal of every advertiser and everything you do. Like you pull out your cell phone, there's people advertising. You go down the road, there's
Yep.
people advertising. You turn on TV, so the whole world's trying to catch your attention, and you need to fight to keep your attention on what you want it to go to. So I was trying to show you guys, like right here. So on my phone, I keep a like a soldier a picture of me to remind myself every day I'm going to war for my goals in my future. And I change that around sometimes on my phone, because by having visual reminders or visual goals on your phone, you're picking that thing up all the time. And every time you see it, whether it's your logo, your brand, your goals, I want to do 100 deals, whatever it is, I want to become an icon agent, I want to build a team of 100, whatever it is, the more you focus on it, the more you think about it, and the more you think about it, the more you're likely to have it. And that's really why
Hmm.
people don't have things, is they don't think about them. So if you think about how many times you've actually thought about having a real Lamborghini in your driveway, probably you thought about it every now and then, but you didn't really think about it. Whereas like Mike, I can tell you, Mike, it was all he thought about it all the time. He's thinking he's going to get this Lamborghini, purple Lamborghini, like all the time. So it's the more you think about something, it increases the likelihood that you actually end up having it. So if you're not thinking about what you want, guys, you can't have it. So I'd really take some time and really take a full day or two, and I do this every year where I really, usually at the beginning of the year when people are doing their cliche New Year stuff, I really look at have I changed what I want? Does this still the goals I'm after? And I really spend some time doing this, and it's helped me a lot. But is there
Yeah,
anything else
I
you want
I
to?
would say extremely valuable. I think there's more value in stepping back for a few days than whatever you could accomplish in a couple days if you're getting clarity on what you want to go after. I always feel way more inspired and energetic and focused if I really know what I want. And I've had to transition a few times because sometimes you set goals and it's like, it's not going the way I want, or maybe I find out like it's not what I hoped it would be or had planned it to be, and so you kind of shift it into something that makes you more happy or more what you want to do. So that's okay. Like it's better to have a vision and go after it and find that out versus have none at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really good podcast. Is there anything as far as like where you want to direct people to go, like your YouTube channel? You want to give your YouTube channel out? Make sure to go follow Brett on his IG, guys. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, you
what
can
have you got
find
planned
me
out?
on Instagram at Brett Schiller or YouTube. My YouTube's Brett Schiller Tampa Realtor. You can see a lot of the content we create. A lot of it's gonna start changing pretty soon too. It's gonna be more more higher level content. A lot of what's on there is home tours right now, but I mean, you can easily see what type of content we're doing to get business. And I mean, almost all of it is done on my iPhone. So you don't have to have fancy equipment. You don't have to, you know, hire videographers and have all the things to make decent content. You can do it all with iMovie and an iPhone.
Yep. Just got to do it. It's like people are so concerned on perfectionism. Perfectionism is like the curse of entrepreneurship. But
Yeah.
man, like, and you guys like go check them out. Like, it's not just that like there's nothing here to sell. We're giving people an opportunity to work with us. Even if you like Brett, you like what he's doing, you can literally reach out to him and say, I want to replicate and duplicate and dominate the same way you're doing, and follow along. And you can have that conversation. You can come work with us here at the Wolfpack. So just reach out to Brett and say you want to hop on Zoom with him and take a look at what he's doing. And you never know. Y'all may be partners here soon. And
That's right. I'll teach
any
you.
one last message? You want to give a parting message to anybody to encourage them or anything like that? And then we'll see you back here hopefully on the podcast. Usually 12 months later, we'll get you back on here, something like that.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, biggest thing for me, it's kind of a summarize, I saw that there was so much opportunity out there that I didn't realize until I got around the right people. And that's where my business has started to skyrocket, is getting in the right room, mingling with the right people, having conversations like this. And now my eyes are open to number one, what's possible, and number two, exactly how to go do it. And that's where I've been super impressed with the group of people that we have here at the Wolfpack. It's so collaborative. I can have conversations with people in Vancouver and Nashville and Seattle, and they're open to sharing their ideas on how they're growing massive businesses. And guess what? I can do that exact same thing here in Tampa. So if you want to grow fast, grow together.
I like it.
Or
Yeah,
if you want to go
sometimes
far, go together.
they get it. Yeah, when I agree with man. It's like I think people sometimes look at our brand outside and they think Wolfpack's like got this mean, aggressive, like it's a Wolfpack, like, but really what it stands for is family, and that everybody in here is just trying to chase their goals for their personal family, and we have this kind of business family together. And we all know that if we all help each other, we're all going to get to our goals in our personal life. And so it's a shared effort and a collective effort. And now because EXP gives us that global footprint, we can bring in some really cool, talented people from all around the planet. And because of technology, I mean, Brett's definitely not sitting in my other room. He's in a different part of the world. You have partners in Tampa, you got partners in India. I mean, wherever you want now, you can literally build a global business, and it really is powerful, especially for $85 a month. But man, I had a good call, or I had a fun on this call. It was a good conversation, and just thank you for
Yeah,
coming on
thanks,
and
man.
sharing. And I'll probably create some little short form clips and shoot them over, and we'll give you the ability to post those and all that. But everybody on here, make sure to go follow him. And other than that, we'll see you on the next one, guys. And hope all is well, and you guys have a good day.
See ya.